I cannot believe the way that these people are so careless with your money when it comes to doing wars, specifically wars that we are waging at the behest of Israel.
So Hasan Piker just called out America's reckless war spending at Israel's behest, and he's hitting on something crucial that mainstream media won't touch. We're talking about billions in unaccounted military spending while Americans can't afford healthcare. This is about priorities and accountability. Let's break this down.
Can you imagine a world where a sitting representative asks a question to, like, I don't know, a public health official in any state and goes, where is the accounting for $25 billion? And the public health official goes, I don't know.
This comparison exposes the absurd double standard perfectly. When Minnesota's Feeding Our Future fraud hit $250 million, there were congressional hearings, FBI raids, and endless coverage. But when the Pentagon fails its sixth consecutive audit and can't account for $3.8 trillion in assets, crickets.
Think about how much money is being spent on waging wars. How much money is being spent on waging wars, and these guys don't even think that they have to do the accounting. They don't even have to crunch the numbers. They just throw a number in your direction and go, what are you going to do about it? It's the military, bitch.
The numbers are staggering. Since 2001, we've spent over $8 trillion on wars, with $2.3 trillion just on Afghanistan and Iraq. The Pentagon has never passed a full audit, and the Government Accountability Office flags billions in waste annually. Yet questioning military spending makes you unpatriotic.
Think about how much the Minnesota Somali fraud was in the news, for how long it was in the news, what actions the administration took as a consequence of Nick Shirley, who I cannot make fun of because I don't want to be called out for ableism on top of the anti-Semitism, apparently, okay? It's illegal to make fun of Nick Shirley now because it's ableism through and through. Let's be real. He genuinely has a significant mental shortcoming, let's say. I don't want to say disability, but you get what I'm saying. Think about how long that was in the discourse, which was already a case that had been investigated, right? That was already a case that was closed. And yet we talked about it endlessly.
The media obsession with small-scale fraud while ignoring massive military waste isn't accidental. A few $100 million in food assistance fraud gets wall-to-wall coverage, but Boeing overcharging the military $25 billion for the KC-46 tanker barely makes headlines. It's manufactured outrage to distract from real theft.
It is not $25 billion that we have spent so far waging war against Iran at the behest of Israel. It is so much more than that. We're not factoring in the loss of assets in this calculation. The operational costs are to the tune of $1 billion a day. So the idea that it's only $25 billion, it's not even a conservative estimate. It's just a made up number.
He's absolutely right about cost estimates being fabricated. Remember Iraq? Bush said $50 to $60 billion total. The actual cost hit $2.4 trillion when you include veteran care and interest. The Congressional Budget Office now estimates military operations against Iran could cost $1.5 trillion over a decade.
So just remember that next time someone goes, how are we going to pay for it? When you ask for healthcare, okay? When you ask for better classroom sizes and your local politician goes, we can't pay for it. Yeah, we can't, because all the money is always wasted in the direction of the military industrial complex so we can generate more unique and creative ways of murdering children overseas and then waste those munitions overseas at the behest and direction of Israel sometimes.
This is the brutal trade-off Americans face daily. We spend $850 billion annually on defense while claiming we can't afford universal health care that would cost $400 billion. We fund endless wars while 44 million Americans carry student debt and infrastructure crumbles. The money exists, it's just misallocated.
There was one guy, a Kenyan Muslim communist by the name of Barack Hussein Obama, that actually successfully put together, by way of diplomacy, a multilateral agreement where the participants were our European allies and even China and Russia, that actually put significant checks on the Iranian nuclear program, which they were committed to following through in exchange for sanctions relief. So
the JCPOA was objectively successful. International monitors confirmed Iran's compliance for years. Trump withdrew purely for domestic political gain, not because Iran violated anything. Even Israeli intelligence confirmed Iran was following the deal. Diplomacy worked, but it didn't generate campaign donations like fear-mongering does.
So if you are genuinely worried and disturbed about the likelihood of Iran receiving a nuclear weapon, gaining nuclear arms and engaging in nuclear sovereignty, if you have a real concern there, well, there was one guy who was able to successfully stop that. His name is Barack Hussein Obama. He's a Muslim socialist communist from Kenya, and he was the one who did it. It was called the JCPOA.
This exposes the fundamental dishonesty of Iran hawks. If preventing Iranian nuclear weapons was actually the goal, they'd support the deal that was working. Instead, they sabotaged diplomacy and chose military confrontation. It was never about security. It was about justifying endless conflict and defense spending.
First of all, if we're judging the impact of a deal and how bad it is by how much we give to Iran in terms of money, then there is no way out of this quagmire where Donald Trump won't be giving a load more money to Iran in unfrozen assets to the tune of $20 billion.
The math is devastating for conservative critics. Obama's diplomatic approach cost $1.7 billion in Iranian assets returned. Trump's military escalation has cost over $200 billion in deployments, weapons, and regional instability. Yet Republicans still claim Obama was weak and Trump was strong. It's backwards.
If I'm looking at this from an objective perspective, unfreezing Iranian assets and also on top of that, giving Iran some semblance of autonomy and doing sanctions relief on Iran and allowing American investments to go into Iran, infinitely better than even the JCPOA. From a moral perspective, it's actually the smart thing to do. It's pro-diplomacy. It's a good thing.
History proves diplomatic engagement works better than military threats. Nixon's opening to China, Reagan's arms control with Gorbachev, Carter's Camp David Accords. Diplomacy creates lasting solutions. Military pressure typically escalates conflicts and creates new enemies. The data consistently favors negotiation over confrontation.
And also, here's a really cool way to avoid all of that. Just don't bomb other countries. Like, there's no need for conventional weapons. There's no need for nuclear weapons if there isn't a imminent threat born out of America constantly trying to meddle in the affairs of other countries. And guess what? For the case of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, it worked. It was objectively a W, okay? It was a W for them. They were able to develop sovereignty.
American interventionism creates the very threats it claims to address. Iran developed missiles because we overthrew their government in 1953 and supported Saddam's war against them. North Korea pursued nukes after Bush labeled them axis of evil. Our aggression generates defensive responses we then call unprovoked.
I mean, even from like a pro-hoorah, pro-government, pro-military standpoint, the easiest counter to this is, yeah, I do support the troops, which is why I don't want them to fly and do bombing campaigns over Iranian soil and potentially get bombed back by anti-aircraft defense systems that they keep seemingly pulling out of their asses, and then have to waste another $1 billion on trying to save the 2 pilots that were taken out over Iranian airspace.
Real troop support means not sending them into unnecessary wars for corporate profits. Since 2001, over 7,000 service members died in Iraq and Afghanistan, with 53,000 wounded. Supporting troops means questioning missions that serve defense contractors rather than national security. Dead soldiers can't spend veteran benefits.
Why is the American government and the American military, the most powerful military on the planet, the most expensive military on the planet, being used to do sanitation duty for a country that is the size of New Jersey? Why are we doing their bidding? What the is this conversation?
Israel receives more U.S. military aid than any country, despite having a smaller economy than Florida. AIPAC spent $100 million in 2024 elections alone, more than most corporate lobbies. Meanwhile, polling shows Americans overwhelmingly oppose unconditional military support. Our foreign policy serves donors, not voters.
And then you sit there and you talk about how, like, oh, it's fine if people are paying $5,000 extra at the end of the year. The president evidently being influenced by ChatGPT slop being funneled to him by the Israeli lobby groups. Oh my God. Oh my Lord. Oh, yeah. What a stupid country we are.
This connects foreign policy to kitchen table economics perfectly. While AIPAC spends millions influencing Congress, Americans pay $7,000 more annually for healthcare than other developed nations. Military aid to Israel costs every American household $400 yearly, while wages stagnate. Foreign lobbying literally costs us money.